Good morning, Flosstube. It's Caroline from Leeds in West Yorkshire in the UK. I'm back for a somewhat delayed recap of my January and February crafting. I had planned on recording a couple of times before this, but world events meant that I wasn't really in the right headspace. I'm sure a lot of us have felt like that. And then I came across last weekend when doom scrolling on Twitter, which is something I'm trying not to do at the moment. I came across a quote from Ai Weiwei, the Chinese artist and dissident, which gave me pause for thought. In this quote he said that in the most difficult times, you know, only art or poetry or making fills the areas authoritarians can never touch. So I thought so I sort of thought about that for a little while and then thought, do you know what, I'm still going to share my stitching. Obviously my thoughts are with everyone in the Ukraine. It's I can't imagine what it must be like. It's frightening enough here sometimes, because let's face it, who had surviving a nuclear war on their bingo card for this year? I know I certainly didn't. Anyway, today is Sunday the 6th of March. It's just before lunch, the sun is shining, so let's get on. Since I last did my whip parade in the beginning of January, I have actually had a couple of things fully finished. I know, don't shock, it's tough. I do have a goal this year of trying to get at least one thing fully finished a month. Probably a small pillow, but at least it's by the end of the year I will have had 12 things fully finished. So my fully finished object for January was Winter Bird by Heart in Hand Needleworks, which I finished as a little pillow. It's stuffed with crushed hazelnut lizard litter and just a little pillow, some rickrack around the outside. I actually stitched this back in 2007. And my daughter very helpfully pointed out, "Mummy, it's older than me." I did point out back that she was the reason why it was older than her. If I didn't spend so much time with them, I'd have a bit more time for this stuff, but hey, you don't have kids to not spend time with them. So very pleased to get that finished. I do have I've Springbird finished, and I'm actually in the process of finishing that. I'm hoping that will be my fully finished object for March. And Autumn and Summer Birds. Autumn Bird you'll see in a bit because it was one of my new starts, and Summer Bird was a new start last year. So very pleased. I hopefully will, in the not too distant future, have all the set finished and I can have it out on my seasonal displays. The other thing I got fully finished was I actually got some framing done. A friend of mine recommended a framer in a local market town not too far away from here. So called Pomfret Gallery in Pontefract. So I took our silver wedding sampler in for framing. This is Emblem of Love by with thy needle and thread. I stitched this back in 2020 when it was our silver wedding, so it's not been on the to be finished part for too long compared to some of the pieces I've got that are waiting framing. But I'm very pleased with how it's come out, and I will be sending some more pieces for framing, but probably not that many because it's spendy is sending stuff for framing, and there's only so much money to go around. So when I stitched this, I stitched it on some Lakeside Linen Vintage Luna 32 count using a thread pack that I had been gifted by Vicky Clayton's Hand Dyed Fibres many years ago. So this was her original, when she was originally dyeing. So yes, I'm very pleased with how this has turned out, and I'm really pleased to get it on the wall. It's going to hang in the same room as our wedding sampler. So having detailed my rotation plans in my last video, because they went straight out the window, didn't they? And I decided I actually wanted to focus on, I hit a point with stained glass sunflower where I felt I wanted to actually work on it more and get it finished in the not too distant future. So I'm spending so every other weekend I'm just going to pull a whip from the pile, and also having gone through my whips, I actually made me want to work on them all. So the first whip I pulled out was Christmas Tree Globe, which was a little kit from Krynic, and I got it finished because there wasn't that much to do. This is a silk gauze kit. The design is by Sherry Marie Leck. I'm not sure how well this is going to show up. It's on 40 count silk gauze using silk moire and blending filament. I'm just going to stick this in a little frame and have it out at Christmas, I think. Not try and do anything too fancy with it, but I'm really pleased to have it finished. So there wasn't a lot of stitching, it was only a weekend stitching left on that, so it's nice to finish one. I started this one in 2018, I believe. So nice to get that finished. So onto my focus piece, which is Stained Glass Sunflower by Landmark Tapestries. Started back in 2001, so well past the time it needs to be off the whip pile. So I reached a point where I decided, having finished this green border in the beginning of January, I decided actually, you know what, I really want to work on this some more, and if I work on it some more it's not going to take too much longer to do. So I've finished, well, it's finished as far as I can because I've run out some of the threads and I need to get out to, I've managed to match a few of them online, but I need to visit a shop that sells Appletons to match the last two. So I've got this black section done and all finished, started and finished, and I'm now working on this one, and I'm in the process, and I'm almost done of getting all the white outlining in, because the stitching on this side, because it's just blocks of colour, solid blocks of colour, that is not going to take me long to do, and I have all the colours for that, so that's fine. So I'm hoping in the not too distant future I can get that one done. So that's going to get about 8 days a month, maybe more if it's a longer month. So I'm working on that. So I pull it every other weekend. I'm pulling a whip out and working on that Friday through Sunday, and then I'm working on this one for the rest of that week, with the new start, 2 new starts a month, getting a full week each, so I'll make some decent progress on them. So that is Stained Glass Sunflower. Oh, just need to pick up something that fell off. So I can't remember how far I was on with this. I think I was working on this when I did my last video, so I can't remember how far on I was. So the next whip I worked on was Bearded Designs Elegant Pocket, or it might have been the first whip I worked on and then I changed how I was doing it. So that was the first whip I worked on in January. So I can't remember if I showed you this, if I'd finished my rotation slot on this when I recorded in January or not, but here is where I'm up to. This is a kit I bought from Elegant Stitch many years ago. It's elegant bean linen, it's needlepoint ink silks. I've got them on this nice little Kelmscott mother of pearl thread holder, 2 shades of green, 2 shades of purple, exactly my colours. And this is my progress to date. When I picked it up in January, I'd just sort of outlined this big motif. So I got all of that finished the scroll work around it, made a start on the scroll work for the next panel down, and took the border down. So I've got the flap finished. I'm now on the back and then the front to go. So I'm very pleased with my progress on that. I think that's looking very, very pretty. So that's Elegant Pocket by Beardy Designs. I haven't seen any designs by Karen for a long time, so I'm not sure that's available anywhere, but she did some beautiful stuff. The other whip I worked on in January was One Moment in Time by Jackie Duplessis of It's Finally Finished. I got this class kit through an online, they're called the Shining Needle Society. They were on Yahoo and they're now using a different platform, which I can't remember was, but I still get email, they're still out there. They offer online classes, and Jackie was doing classes through them at one point. So I'm working on the bag, and I've been working on the bag for ages. However, it's cream linen, and you're outlining each bag panel in cream soy fine, which makes it very, very, very difficult to actually see what you're doing. I don't think you can't see very much on there. Just see the shadow of the outline there. So this is the last of the back panels. I got one completely finished. And this is what they look like when they're finished. So I'm at the stage now when I've done 7 of these. All I really have to do next time I pick this up is finish the little sprig at the top. I have another one of the pocket panels to do, which go a lot quicker because there's a lot less complicated counting and a lot more fun stitching with the flower. And then I've just got all the smalls to go with it, which again will stitch up a lot quicker because they're much more fun and to put it together. So I'm very pleased to be able to see the end of these bag panels. Say 6 of them here. I'm looking forward to getting onto the more fun stitching. So this is on cream linen. I can't remember the count. It uses cream soy fine, 2 103s, and then some, I'm not sure what silks are. There may be, there's a hand-dyed one, which may be Gloriana, but I'm not sure. Beautiful colours. Again, I'm looking forward to when I get back to that one, getting the bag panels finished. So that was January. I'll get on to my new starts in a bit. So we're on to February's whips. The first whip that got pulled out in February was Skylar Wayne, which is a beautiful sampler by Indigo Rose. Again, I'm afraid I think these are out of print now, because Catherine retired after a few years ago. I was gifted a kit, the pattern in a kit, by in a secret stitcher exchange, and my secret stitcher, I think it was called Carol. I think she may have passed away now, but I'm not sure, can't remember her surname. She got it signed by Catherine for me, which is lovely. And then she kitted it up with the call for Karen threads, and I think the colourful linen. The colourful linen is 34 count Legacy Cafe au Lait, and here is my progress so far. So when I picked it up this time, let me just put it on my card, easier to hold. I had this bit outlined. I'd stitched those two. I'd got the outline, and I think I'd got the inner square stitched. So I was alternating, working on putting in some of the squares to fill in with the letters, and filling in this quilt block in the middle. So I'm working on that quilt block there, and I'm just putting in some of the grid work. So I do a strand of the green and then a strand of another colour just to break it up a bit. So this is reaching the top, and then another half to go. But quite pleased with how much I got done in 3 days on that one. Once I finish, this will be one of my oldest whips, because again this was started in 2018. That's not a class piece. Once I finish Stained Glass Sunflower, so this won't sort of in the next year, hopefully this year, if not next year. If not, it'll be next year. This will become a focus piece, and I'll be working on it till it's finished. I'm looking forward to that because it's a beautiful sampler. And then I worked on one of my, I'm trying to work on at least one class of my class whips, which you know if you saw my last video, I have a stack of about 12 or 13 of these whips where I've taken a class. Last ones were in 2018, I think. So this is one from Lauren Sarah, Forget Me Nots in Stitches, CMB 1759, A Sleeping Beauty Awakened, which was a class. Lauren unfortunately couldn't join us, but the class went ahead at Fobbles. I don't have a picture of the full sampler as I'm doing it, so I'll show you where I'm up to at the minute, because there were 4 different variations on this sampler. The original reproduction was all French knots, white work French knots, and there was no way I was doing a whole sampler in French knots. Absolutely no way. I think Lauren said she did hers in colonial knots. So there were 4 different ways you could stitch this sampler. You could stitch it as a white work sampler, and you could do it as a double, or just one long sampler, which some people did, or Lauren charted a colour work version in mostly cross stitch, which is the version I'm doing. It's cross stitch and a bit of the dividing bands are Montenegrin. Again, you could do it as single or a double. I'm doing it as a double. So, having picked this one up, there we go. I worked on this band with the blue flowers. Or had I done that? No, I think it was the band with the pink flowers. Band beneath, some of the dividing bands, the Montenegrin, and across there. So not a huge amount of progress, but progress all the same. And it was really lovely to work on this one again. It's mostly using sampler threads. Beautiful sampler there. And there is one of Vera Soie, which I call for in it. So I don't have a picture of the whole sampler, but there's pictures of the bands. So this is the bands down this side, what they will look like, and then that will be that side down to the bottom. And then these are the bands on the other side, and that will go underneath down to the bottom. There we go. Should be beautiful when it's done. Might be a while, however, but it was nice to see it, get it out. It's quite a big, big sampler. So that was the last of the whips I worked on in February. We shall get on to my new starts. So in my last video I showed you my first new start for January, which was a Blackbird Designs Sarah's ABC pincushion. My sampler new start for, because I'm trying to start one piece and a sampler every month, because I've got so many lovely samplers, and if I don't get them started, it's not going to happen. So my first sampler start of the year was Mary Ann Aldred from Needlework Press. This was an exclusive that was offered through the Homespun Needlework Cross Stitching Samplers Facebook group, and Vicky will be releasing it to the general public later in the year, I think. I think that it's exclusive to the group. It you know, you have a month to buy it, and then it remains exclusive for the rest of the year, and then it can be released. So I bought the kit from the Shepherd's Needle when it was on offer. Succumbed to the kit, so I wanted to get it started. So it came with the linen, which was Vintage County Mocha 40 count. I went for the cotton version. I think there were silks on offer as well, and they're all classic colourworks. It also came with this beautiful thread fob from Sampling and Memories, which is the Mary Ann Aldred sampler. And here is my progress after a week of stitching. I concentrated on getting the border in because I wanted to make sure I got it all right and it all matched before I put too much else in. So mostly stitching vine all week. Take a leaf out of Carol Sockbox Stitches way of stitching samplers on that one. But I did get one of the little over one hearts stars stitched to get a bit of pop of colour on it and not just green. So when I next get back to this, it's start filling in the vine, start adding the flowers, and start filling in the middle. But I was very pleased with my progress for a week, and I know I'm going to love stitching on that one. So that was Mary Ann Aldred. So we're on to our February new start. So I mentioned the birds. So my February new start was Autumn Bird from Heart in Hand. I'm stitching that on the Call For linen, which was 32 count summer khaki, using the Call For Weeks Dye Works and Gentle Arts threads. And again, for a week's stitching, I got really good progress. Got the bird in, bird's all done. I've just got the pumpkin and the words to go. So I was very, very pleased with my progress on that one. A bit while again before it gets picked up again, but unfortunately, but there we go. Very, very glad to have got as far as I did. Really enjoyed the stitching these birds. Cecilia's just put out a coffee bird. I might have to get that one. Given I don't function without coffee in the morning. And my sampler new start for February was Just Nan's A Breath of Spring. This is Just Nan number 4, and I've had it in my stash for the best part of 20 years, so definitely needed to start stitching. I love these old seasonal. I love her old samplers best, and I absolutely love the season ones. Stitching it in DMC. It's charted for DMC or Rivera Soir, but I went for DMC, and 1 Karen Water Lilies, very pale colours. There's a couple of Perlé cottons as well, which if you know Just Nan, you know about. And this was my progress of the week. I'm doing it on 32 count. I think it's called Winter Moon linen from Zweigart. So got a couple of bands in, made a start on the 3rd. And of course, if you stitch a Just Nan, they're a lot more complicated than they look. There's always quite a bit more work in some bands than you think there really should be. So, but it was really, really lovely, soothing to stitch that over half term. So that's where I got up to. So there you have had. We've had a whistle-stop tour of 2 months worth of stitching. Now, obviously, there has been a little bit of stash bought. Not a huge amount, because obviously I paid for some framing, and you'll see some of the other stuff. One of the things I did succumb to was Rosa Ray de Featherstone, which was also a exclusive through the Homespun Needlework Facebook group from this is Hobby House Needleworks, sorry. An exclusive between Hands Across the Sea and Hobby House Needleworks. So I ordered the kit for that, with the cotton threads rather than the silks. It's still spendy enough coming from the States, with postage these days. It's a lot, so try not to. I can't order in the way I used to, and a lot of places don't ship over here either. So I do try and, if I can get it over here, I'd rather get it over here than have it shipped from the States. So that arrived before Christmas, because I didn't show you any stash acquisitions in the last video. I'll show you that now. Another one I picked up before Christmas was another Hands Across the Sea. This is Elizabeth Bedfin, which is one of their older designs, but I do love it. That border and all the animals. It's got lots and lots of birds in the border. To add to my collection. And then for Christmas, my son bought me Consider the Lilies from Heartstring Sampleries. I have the old version of the companion piece, which I think name escapes me at the moment. His Eyes on the Sparrow. So I have His Eyes on the Sparrow, so I got Consider the Lilies to go with it. And then for my husband bought me a pair of Ernest Wright scissors, stalk scissors. These are handmade down the road in Sheffield, handmade Sheffield steel, and they are beautiful to use, absolutely beautiful scissors. So I've kept them in their box for the minute. I'll have to find the right set of smalls for them to accompany. So yes, so if you want a pair of very, very special scissors, do look out for Ernest Wright. I got mine through Beyond Measure in Todmorden. I have an online shop, and she occasionally has them in stock. There we go. I have bought other stash, but it's been kitting up stuff that I want to start. I've been buying a lot of silk to kit up some samplers. I'm hoping to start my Merry Betchel by the Scarlet House in a couple of months' time. So I've just splashed out on the Belle Soy for them, and you know, silk's expensive, so, and the silks are Anne Grant that I was missing for Anne Grant and such like. I've also succumbed to the current exclusive in homespun needlework cross stitch and samplers group, which is a sewing roll from Stacey Nash, and that with the exchange rates and the postage is incredibly expensive to get shipped to the UK. So obviously can't really, that's me below my budget. So but it's not like I'm short of stuff to stitch, so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to pause now, put the cross stitch stuff away, and then we'll get on to knitting and quilting. Won't be long. Alright, I'm back with the knitting and the quilting. I'm not knitting as much at the minute, just because I'm feeling more of an urge to stitch, but I have a couple of pieces that I finished. One is fully finished, one isn't. One I haven't had a chance to block. So the fully finished, fully blocked, everything, she's now wearing it, is Love Notes. I knit a second Love Notes sweater for my daughter using the Amethyst gems, Wensleydale gems from West Yorkshire Spinners. So I had a brain fart there for a minute. So it's almost the same size as mine, so I've had to put a bit of embroidery thread in the neckline so we know which one is which, because she's almost as tall as me now, just enviably slimmer, obviously, being 14. So yeah, so another Love Notes. I'm sure there'll be more Love Notes in my future because it was such a fun one to stitch. The other knit that I have finished is my Ivy Over the Door shawl. I have, however, not blocked it yet. So this is knit in Kettle Yarn Islington. Show you that properly, there we go. Which is a BFL and silk mix in the colourways Julep and Kelp. Kelp is the dark green. So I've woven all my ends in, just need to block it and then they can be cut. So yeah, so there we go. I'm very pleased to have got that finished. Should be a nice warm winter scarf actually once I've got it all blocked. So it's just probably might well be Easter because it's going to be quite a big one to block out, so need to be when my husband's not working in the office. But again, please. So I've only got one knit on the needles at the moment, which, as I say, because I'm not knitting a lot, it's just sort of weekend mornings really. I'm just going to concentrate on trying to get these finished, which is my Cliff Fork socks by, sorry, Love Notes was Tin Can Knits. Ivy Over the Door is Curious Handmade, Helen Stewart. These are also Curious Handmade. This is from Sock Society number 2. Ivy Over the Door was Shawl Society 3. And I'm knitting these in some Knitting Goddess 4-ply British wool and nylon, which was I got in a yarn club called Back to the Discworld, 2016 I think, and the colourway is called God of Evolution. So I have finished one sock, which I'm sure I've shown you before, and I am on to sock number 2. This is the yarn. These are the colours, beautiful blues and greens. Now my daughter has asked for a new pair of socks because she says her existing ones are too small. Given her feet are almost as big as mine, I suspect these will be going to her when I get them done. So just focusing on these just to, because when I picked these up to focus on them, I just finished the ribbing, just started on the leg, so, and I'm almost at the heel now, so just crack on with those for the next few days. I did have another whip on the needles, but I've ended up frogging it. I cast on a hat using with some yarn that I showed you a few videos ago that I bought, and I'm trying my hand at some brioche knitting, and the decreases weren't looking right, so I ripped that back and then tried it on, and then thought, actually, do you know what, I've knit this far too large, so I ripped it all the way back to go back to the beginning. So once I finish these socks, I'll probably cast the hat back on maybe and give it another go. There has been a little bit of yarn stash bought, which is one of the reasons why there wasn't so much stitching stash. Or my next cast on may well be the Twig and Bud shawl by Marna Gilligan of Anne Catton Begg. She was selling she's doing some seasonal shawls this year, and she was selling kits for the shawl. She had 2 different colourways. There's this lovely pale green, so it's mohair and silk, or there was a paley purple one. I opted for the pale green one, green and greys. Beautiful. And it also came with some needle minders. And the pattern. I've got a good picture of the pattern, but this is the lacework at the bottom, and it's just reverse stocking stitch with a cable down to the, so it's a crescent shawl. So that also might well get cast on once I finish the socks, but I do want to finish the socks because they've been hanging around for about a year now, and like I say, I've got my daughter nattering me because she wants some more hand knit socks, and she's asking for knitting, then I'm going to get on and do it. The other bit of yarny stash I got was from Meadow Yarns. She's been doing these one-of-a-kind skeins for newsletter subscribers, and this one is called A Hat Full of Sea. So this was inspired by some photographs she'd taken of the coast near her. This is her Coombs fingering, which is 100% superwash extra fine merino. Not quite sure what I'll do with it yet. Might be socks, or it might be a shawl. It's going to marinate in the stash while I think about it. So that's all the knitting news. There has been some quilting. I finally got round to putting the border on my Sparkle and Shine quilt. So now I just need to get it sandwiched and get it off for quilting, which again is probably to be spendy. So we shall. And I've gotten the first blocks done on, so that was a mystery quilt from 2 years ago, which is now finished. Well, apart from backing, the quilting's finished. Last year's mystery quilt, so that was Name of the Rose. Last year's mystery quilt was called Sparkle and Shine, and I hadn't started it at all. So Thursday of half term, I cracked on and got the first clues done on that one, and also first clue done on this year's mystery quilt, which is called I'm going to have to just bear with me, grab that. So Sweet is the mystery quilt for this year. And I got the first blocks done on that one. Just bear with me because someone's coming up the stairs. Sorry about that, I had to stop suddenly because somebody was coming up the stairs. So I also got the stitching done on clue 1 for this year's mystery quilt, which is called So Sweet. And the fabric line for So Sweet is Flora and Fauna by Patty Slollinger for Andover Fabrics. So these will be the fabrics I'm using. And the Sparkle and Shine ones were juicy, and I think apart from the dark blue, which was a Andover linen, I think, if I go back through my notes. Anyway, so that's where I'm up to with everything. I'm going to try and, I can see a big pile of stuff I now need to put away, obviously. That's the downside of this. I should be back at the beginning of April because we'll be on to the Easter holidays. So I'll have, and it's going to be a little easier to film going forward now because it's not dark, and I think my camera struggles when the lighting's not good. So it being daylight into the evenings is going to make it a lot easier to record. So I hope everyone takes care, stay sane, stitch a lot, stay safe, and I will catch you in beginning of April. Bye.